"What's wrong with you?" my mother asked when I got home. What do you mean? You're... you're... Well, honey, you're smiling. I laughed. Sorry, I didn't realize I was. I can stop it if it bothers you. Bothers me? Are you kidding? You have a beautiful smile. I just don't get to see it that often. Mom reached over and gave me a tight squeeze. I hugged her back. You're hugging? Since when do you two hug? Emily asked, staring at his hands on her hips. I released Mom from the embrace. Hey, Emily, want to show me your dance routines? The 8-year-old glared at me suspiciously. You know, I saw a movie like this once, she determined. Mom, I don't know how to tell you this, but I think Maddie has been taken over by pod people. I rolled my eyes. Come on, guys, it's not that weird, is it? Had I really been such a miserable bitch all this time that one smile threw them for such a loop? Emily, where did you see a movie about pod people? Mom demanded. Over at Dad's? Of course you did. Mom's happy face faded and she suddenly looked old. Why did I even have to ask? It was a 1994 remake, actually, not the original. Emily provided helpfully. Yes, the R-rated one that's not appropriate for 8-year-olds. I figured as much. Emily shrugged. Mom turned and headed for the kitchen, shaking her head and muttering something about Dad's lack of ability to set appropriate boundaries for his children. My upbeat mood dampened as I watched her go. Nice one, I muttered to Emily, shaking my head. Whatever. I held up my hands. Fine, I said. After all, I'm not the one always trying to get Mom and Dad back together. You honestly think Mom and Dad are going to get back together? Emily rolled her blue eyes, having obviously faced reality finally. I didn't know whether to be relieved or sad or... You must be smoking something really good is all I can say. Or horrified. I stared at her. Where do you hear those things? I demanded, crossing my fingers that this time she wouldn't say at Dad's. At least not loud enough for Mom to hear. At school. We're a very advanced class. That's one word for it. Another would be, so you gonna watch my dance routine or what? She looked up at me expectantly, her cupid bow mouth pursed as she waited for my answer. I groaned. As if you were really giving me a choice in the matter. Cool, let's go outside. Emily dived to the hall closet in search of shoes. I glanced out the window. It's raining, I noted. Too bad. Guess you'll have to show me another time. What are you, the Wicked Witch of the West? Afraid you'll melt? Right, something like that. Without the green face paint. Oh, fine. You just don't want to see my routine. Emily pouted. Sigh. I asked you, didn't I? I reminded her. Let's just do it in the living room so I can watch from the couch. Emily scrunched up her face. Grandma doesn't want me to dance in there. Of course she didn't. Not in her unicorn museum. I peered out the window. Rain was gushing down in torrents. Well, I don't think Grandma's home, I told her. Just be careful, and I'm sure you'll be fine. I felt kind of guilty going against Grandma's rules, but at the same time, I was so not in the mood to get soaked. Emily thought it over for a moment, then nodded. Okay, she said. Let me go change into my costume. You don't have to... I tried, but she was already gone. Sigh. Stupid me for bringing it up. Now I'd probably be stuck through an hour-and-a-half routine, complete with special effects and multiple costume changes. I reluctantly headed into the living room and plopped down on the couch. It was one of those antique Victorian ones that looked fancy, but was totally uncomfortable to sit in. Meanwhile, our smushy, comfy couch and chairs sat gathering dust in a storage locker down the street. Emily popped into the room a minute later, dressed in a tight half shirt and glitter miniskirt. She'd smeared turquoise eyeshadow over her lids and a disturbing amount of blush on her cheeks, making her look like a midget drag queen. Ta-da! She cried, striking a pose. That's your costume? I asked, raising an eyebrow. Yeah? She said, her voice thick with scorn. What did you expect, a tutu or something? You're 8 years old. It seems a reasonable assumption. You're 8 years old. It seems a reasonable assumption. She struck a pose, very Paris Hilton-esque. Do you want to see me dance or not? I pulled my feet up and under me, waving a hand for her to go on. She dropped character to drag the coffee table to the side of the room and widen her dance space. Then she hit the power button on Grandma's antiquated stereo system. It even had a record player, and spun the dial for maximum volume. A moment later, my poor eardrums were bombarded with the sounds of Jessica Simpson. My sister whirled around the room like Britney Spears pre-rehab, jumping and twirling and dropping into splits. She was way into it, so unconscious of how bad she was and how silly she looked. I forced back my laughter. "Brava!" I clapped as the first song ended. "Encore, encore!" Not that I especially wanted to sit through a second round, mind you, but it seemed the right thing to do. Sure enough, she beamed up at me, suddenly a little kid again. Gone was the jaded, world-weary girl she tried to portray on a daily basis. It was nice to see. She reset the music and whirled around again, this time faster and more energetically, as if she were one of those whirling dervishes. She spun, and I wondered how she didn't get dizzy and just crash. I cringed as Emily lost her balance and slammed right into Grandma's curio cabinet and porcelain monstrosities. The smashing of glass as the shelves came down was so loud it actually drowned out Jessica Simpson. Not good. So not good.
What is going on here?
Even worse, Grandma just got home. She entered the room wearing a bright yellow raincoat, her watery blue eyes widening as she surveyed the destruction of all she held dear. Emily was in the process of trying to extract herself from the broken glass without cutting herself. Her face was red from dancing, and tears were dripping down her cheeks. In the background, Jessica crooned on about ditching some guy who may or may not have been Nick Lachey.
My babies!
Grandma exclaimed, dropping to her knees and searching through the rubble for survivors.
My babies!
Emily managed to stand up. "Sorry," she said. "I slipped." "What's going on here?" Mom burst into the room. She switched off the music and the room fell eerily silent.
My babies!
Grandma repeated for the third time. I gritted my teeth. Yes, we got that already. Emily retreated to the couch and snuggled up to me, as if trying to shield herself from the coming wrath. Good luck with that, kid. "Mother, get up. I don't want you to cut yourself," Mom commanded.